Hello, and welcome to SoberCast, where we provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in podcast format. We're an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into our virtual basket. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, pass me my drink, Pat, right there. I'm a nervous alcoholic. Yeah, and I never want to. I don't have it in my back pocket. I look back and it's only a miracle that I'm standing upright, and not laid out somewhere, and only because of this fellowship. But I'm an alcoholic. I drank just like you. I ran into a bad run with alcohol. It took everything I had, and then it wanted more. They said it was the great eraser, and I didn't know that when I took my first drink. But wait a second, I want to thank Sini and everybody for letting me get up here and ramble and tell my story. I can hear my sponsor, when I start to get slick or funny, I can hear Phil just whispering, get to your drinking. So anybody new or coming back and you want to get up here and be profound and funny and all that other stuff, just get to your drinking, because that's what got my attention. And that's what touched my heart. But I'm an alcoholic. My home group is Courage to Change in the friendly village of Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, New York, baby. The best home group. And my sober date is May something, 1983. And I say May something because I came to just going into central booking. And I remember a couple of days before that I was, my family had a barbecue, right? My family had a barbecue. And they wouldn't let me into the barbecue, It was my house that I paid for. And all I wanted a chicken sandwich, a can of beer, and 2 cigarettes. And they said no. The kids said, Mom, it's Daddy. Like I'm some sort of monster, Daddy's here, He said, get the kids away, And then, yeah. And then I blacked out, and then so I always celebrate God's gift around Memorial Day. But anyway, in Brooklyn, most of my combat was in Brooklyn. I got sober earlier in Manhattan, but my first drink was in Brooklyn. We had a little neighborhood drink called Gypsy Rose, and hello, yeah, 50 cents a pint. And I loved it because, the extent of the social drinking was me and a couple of fellas asking this wino to go into the liquor store on Fulton and Buffalo and said, get us a pint of wine. He would gladly do it in exchange for a sip of the wine, But he didn't take a sip. He took half of the bottle in one gulp. And we had to wrestle it back. And I remember I came of age as an alcoholic when I was tired of going to this bum, derelict alcoholic to get my wine, and I walked into that liquor store by myself, and I put them 2 quarters up there and said, give me a pint of Gypsy Rose, and he did it, I was a kid, and I took it back up to my room and I drank it, and I was watching TV and I had the paper cups. I used to like the way they would drink on TV, whenever anybody would come into the office, anything at all they would drink, any okay do it. And I got drunk in my room, and that was it. Then I realized I could change the way that I felt for 50 cents. I could go to a party, like uncool, didn't want to go, but then, I'd get like a quarter of a pint in me, and I became one of them, like, what are you looking at drunks, like the toughest cats in the neighborhood, and my buddies would say, don't mess, Joe's crazy, you got that stuff in him, and I wasn't a tough guy, but the alcohol changed me, and little did I know that was just the start, and they say it's a progressive disease. That means, simple, it gets worse. It doesn't get better. It gets worse. That's their definition. And that's what it was for me. I escalated into other things. I was a quick study in the other fine arts of getting high, so much so that I made my first detox when I was 15 years old. And my mother had to sign me into this place called Manhattan General, Bernstein Institute. Sounds like it's a school, Bernstein Institute. It's a locked door facility. It's not an institute. And it was my first of many institutions that I went into. And I remember in there, I was like the mascot in this one particular floor. I think it was the third floor. And these were like seasoned, heroin addicts and alcoholics. And, everybody had their group. Like, the blacks was on this side of the ward and the Latinos here. And then they had these Asian fellas that were like detoxing off opium. And they would just massage each other, and there wasn't so much pain. And I sat at the feet of these people, and they proceeded to teach me, how to succeed in this game of, drinking and getting high and all of this. And I ran into this one guy. I've never seen him before, but his name was Romeo. He was from Harlem. And he said that when we get out of this detox, that he would teach me how to drink, and he would teach me how to set up a franchise of shooting galleries on 116th Street. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. So they also had these dances with the women that were on the 6th floor. And you thought the men were hard on the 3rd floor. But this was the beginning. This was my first institutional romance in a detox facility. I fell in love with this older woman, and we would had on bathrobes, and we were dancing, lightning. We were like, yeah. Yeah, I was a mess, so anyway, we fell in love, and I said, look, we're going to leave. I had never graduated high school, but I was going to leave. I was going to, take up a trade, and she was going to leave with me. We didn't have to wait for a medical discharge because I knew what the problem was, and we proceeded to leave. And we got to the corner of 2nd Avenue. We saw the liquor store there, and she said, well, why don't we get a drink and I said, that's right. And we got that drink, started arguing and fighting on the corner. And the next thing I knew, I was in Brooklyn. And she may be in here now. I never thought about that. I'm serious, yeah. Sometimes, it's funny now, but sometimes, you'll hear people get up, especially a lot of men, they'll get up and they'll talk about how they, woke up with, somebody that was an ugly woman. Man, you better be careful. You know, there is some woman that is sharing now in AA saying, I woke up with this ugly thing of a man, and that was you. That's right. Listen, you know, after that 3-day binge, you wake up in that hotel, you ain't no pretty picture yourself, you know. But so it didn't work out. The detox didn't work out. The romance didn't work out. You know, I was 16. All I knew was St. Mark's Avenue between Hopkinton and Saratoga. All I knew was, you know, how to drink, you know, no responsibility, and I just got into it deeper. You know, I went to, must have been 5-6 years later, and I had done many other things that landed me into detoxes for many other reasons. But it must have been around, I must have been about 20, 21 years old, and I was on like this medically assisted treatment for these other habits that I had. And I went to, I was walking down the street, and ran into a good friend of mine, and he said, well, Joe, you know, they have scholarships at this school. And I always wanted to go to school, but I never wanted to put in the effort. You know, I always wanted to be smart. I always wanted the results, but I didn't want to put in the footwork. You know, and that I carried that. I mean, I think I had that before I took my first drink, and the alcohol just, you know, brought that to another level. But I did go, but I took the alcohol with me. You know, I went back to school. I got my GED, and next thing I knew, I was in college. I was in college. I had a family. I knew I had a family because when I got sober, I had these 4 kids that looked like me. You know, they would come up when I was in one of the programs. They would come up on Family Day, and they would say, and then that's when I stopped having visits. I didn't want visits. Even when I was in the penitentiary, I didn't want visits, you know. Just let me do what I'm doing alone. I don't want to know what's going on. This is my world, and this is my reality. And I continued to drink with a vengeance. You know, the school was there. The school was just the backdrop, just, you know, the context for this alcoholism, you know, just to grow. And it grows inside first. It's an inside job. Alcoholism is an inside job. What you saw was the outside, but the real damage was inside. The real pain was inside. Stuff I couldn't talk about. Stuff I could only talk about with another alcoholic, you know, sometime in the sobriety. But back then I wasn't letting you know anything. And I just poured it on top of it, on top of all that pain. And I did go back to school. Somehow, you know, it was a game to me. You know, I thought I was an intellectual, but I was still drinking wine. You know, I was still, that part of the world got too tough for me. I would go back to St. Mark's Avenue. You know, finish that, and somebody said, I said, well, I don't know what to do now. And I was always one to follow what somebody said. You know, they would say, why don't you try this? I said, yeah, okay, try this. I was always, so the suggestion I had back then, well, go to law school. And I did. And to this day, you know, it was a 3-year haze of darting in and out of alcoholism, 2 different worlds. I had like this carrying this double consciousness of law school, and still I was an alcoholic, you know, and I was calling out for stuff that, you know, the law school couldn't provide, you know. It didn't fill the holes that I had inside, but I kept it up. Somehow graduated, then started to make more money than I ever made in my life. I was making some money then. I mean, I was never like a hustler, real, prime A, hustler that would do stuff without drinking. You know, I knew some fellas that would get into fights and beat up people without getting high, you know. And I had to drink to do everything. So, and that always amazed me, that people could do things without drinking. I learned that in recovery, that you could actually, enjoy music or go out and get on the floor and dance without, alcohol. But at that time, I was just pulled so many different ways that I would wake up in the morning, I would kiss the kids goodbye. They were going to school. And 3 days later, I'd wind up in an after-hour joint, in Queens, speaking Spanish, And I was, when he said the AA Priamo Spanish, I was trying to recognize the words, but I mean, I wasn't speaking Spanish. I wound up in some dangerous places. And I would wash up and then go back to work. I was in a partnership with 3 other guys, and they couldn't understand why on a Tuesday morning I'd be there 7 o'clock in the morning with some of these, dancers from the after-hour joint, and the office is full of cigarette smoke and liquor, and the dancers are dancing, and I'm, and my arrogance, is a defiant. This alcoholism is one of like arrogance and defiance. And they would say, "What are you doing, Joe?" And I would say, "You mind your damn business. I know what I'm doing. I'm bringing money into this thing." And just couldn't connect. I would be out for 3-4 days, run back to the office. I would go to this place. It was downtown. I was down in Manhattan. They would open up early. I would go and buy a suit. I mean, just buy a suit. After a while, he would have like the suits just already made. Get a shirt and tie, do what I have to do, and then start it all over again. But in the meantime, what I'm not talking about, I had a family as well. And I was trying to juggle the family and the career and the after-hour joints and the drugs and the alcohol, and I just couldn't do it. I thought I could. I'd wake up in the morning, proceed to do it, and things were just falling. I think the first thing was I was kicked out of the office, right? Then I was kicked out of home. And I always say when I was kicked out of home, I was kicked out of the bedroom first, and then into the living room. And it wasn't that bad because, it's a disease of it wasn't that bad, because I'm in the living room watching TV. I just I couldn't make a lot of noise, just me and Johnny Carson, and I'm smoking a cigarette. And I said to I'm not going to make noise. And I smoking a cigarette and drink, and I started laughing and laughing. And then I said, let me put on some music, I was one of the music drunks too, And next thing I know, I'm laid down on the floor, and the kids are going to school, and and after a while, my wife at that time just had enough, got the black garbage bag, and said, you got to go. And my arrogance was, I told the kids, when I said that's her fault, that's her fault. But just like I've heard many of you say, when I left, it was a sense of relief because I could drink the way I wanted to. Now, this is how sick this was. I had no place to go, no money, no clothes, a black garbage bag, and I was relieved. And I'm leaving a loving family, a home, people that love me, and where the hell am I going? But I was relieved because I could finally be me and be who I am. And, my story is one of, it's not a pretty story. I was, just that, as my sponsor says, I was a pissy, shitty drunk. I had wound up sleeping on the subway. I did maintain, I was able to still wear a shirt and tie though, because I always wanted to let you know that it wasn't that bad. you know. So if you saw me with a shirt and tie, and it's 7 o'clock in the morning and I smell like I've been out for 4 days, at least I have my shirt and tie and I'm going on to work. Hey, how you doing? I'm fine, man. So, you all right, Joe? Yeah, I'm fine, you know. I had dreads before they came into style. I had a brown raincoat. It was like one of them London fog things, but it was black at the end. I had lost my glasses. And I had that briefcase. I had a briefcase. I got to remember this. I had a briefcase that was not my briefcase. It was locked. And I never knew what was inside. But I carried it, you know, like, how you doing? I'm good. And all I know that when I got to the end of the story, they checked it in the property office at the receiving room. So, but that's the way I was. I always thought that I was better, you know, than every other bum on the train. You know, my thing, I rationalized that I couldn't get, it wasn't that I was sleeping on the train, that I was trying to get off at my stop on the train, and I could never get off. And then the disease told me that I wasn't like the other derelicts that were laying out, taking up 3 and 4 seats on the train. My God. I was the one that sat up straight, just taking a nap. Just taking a nap. And I think because of that defiance, I suffered even more. You know, they tell me years back that they did have shelters. I always used to say, when I first got sober, I said, they didn't have no shelters. But they did have a shelter on 3rd Street. But I wouldn't go to the shelter. Was beneath me. It was, I didn't even know. All I know, I guess when the train got there, I didn't have sense enough to get up to go to the shelter. But I wouldn't have went anyway. You know, my disease told me that, you know, all I needed was enough money and just a little time and I would be all right. But that never came because while I was sleeping on that subway, I had the police looking for me, the feds were looking for me, those Colombians out in Queens were looking for me, my wife was looking for me, the kids were looking for me, the Bronx district attorney, yeah, that guy, he was looking for me, and I was on the run. I didn't know where I was going, but I was on the run. And I always say, you know, that in the middle of this degradation, I lost my glasses as well. And I couldn't see. And that was all right with me, you know, because I don't want to see what was out there anyway. And to further complicate it, I figured that with all them people looking for me, if I couldn't see them, they couldn't see me. So I was good. I was good up until I was woken up, arrested for something. I was just being harassed because I was black on the train. All right. But then, you know, I laugh now, but it actually saved my life because when I got into Central Book and when things started to clear up, I had all these charges that fell, all these warrants and, you know, these crimes that, you know, when you get to self-righteousness, I don't remember this and I don't remember that, you know, or what's the big deal, you know? You steal money here and what's the big deal? You know, an alcoholic, I would get fired from jobs for stealing money or doing really bad things. And my alcoholics said, what's the big deal? Come on now. Everybody steals, you know. So all of this started to fall on me. And still in my arrogance, in like the bowels of Rikers Island and that Manhattan federal place. My disease, it came to me that with all this happening that I should defend myself. Because nobody really understood what I had been through. Well, I'm glad you agree, right? And because they tried to appoint me some court-appointed. I said, a court-appointed lawyer? Do you know who I am? Do you have? And I remember the judge asking me several times. He said, Mr. Turner, are you sure you want to proceed? I said, damn right. And I figured, well, that didn't work out too well because now my story goes to the penitentiary. And I was railroaded. Yeah. You all know what I mean, what they do to us. My God. What's the big deal? So what happened was, and I feel good now because that's how it was, and I feel good now inside too because now I can see that God is starting to do His work, all that alcohol, all that, the penitentiary, all that, after-hour joints, sleeping on the train, all that was just a backdrop for Him to come in and do what He does, all of that stuff. So, I'm in the penitentiary, and for me, life was good in the penitentiary. I say it because I was institutionalized. I was able to do things in the penitentiary I wasn't able to do. I set up a law practice. I was doing like these appeals and bail reductions for mafiosa and these real bad characters. So I was protected. I was the big man on campus. I had a locker full of cigarettes and the real nasty short ice magazines and the cookies and I would walk in the yard and people would say, Joe, can I say? I said, no, not now. I'm busy. I got too many cases, and so and I said, wow, So in all of this, it dawned on me that I was institutionalized because life was better for me in there than it was out there. And slowly, like the faces of my children and, the wife and people that love me slowly started to fade. Like just as, a distant thing. And I wanted this right here, get up the yard and all of this, the espionage in the prison, all this stuff. I was like in it. I was in it. And one day, I say the reason that I'm in AA is because it rained. And it was rain. I used to bet on the softball games, when our Latino brothers would play softball. And, I was there taking side bets and all this. But it rained one day, and I walked past the law library, and I saw this guy in there, this guy with a bald head, handlebar mustache, and he's sitting in there all by himself. And I said, what is this? And the guy said, don't go in there. I said, why? He said, because they make you believe in God. I said, okay, I won't go in there, And so I took suggestions. Right. Don't do that. Okay, I won't do that. Right. So one day I walked past and he walked in and he had about 2 or 3 women that was also sitting at the table. He had all these books and everything, and there were a couple of guys there from that I knew, but these were like goody guys. I didn't hang out too much with them, but they were in there. But I saw the women, and I went inside. And they started to talk, and I said, what is this? And to make a long story short, he came to me at the end, and I would raise my hand at my first meeting. I said, my name is Joe, and I can see how this alcohol has wreaked such havoc on you, you know? And I'm sorry you're doing this. And, you know, Sonny would look, and he would look. I think he brought some of them strong AA women from Harlem with him, right? Because they look, and he would say, like, and Sonny would say, yeah, he's mine, you know? And I would say, and I thought they were agreeing with me, you know? But he told me, I did show up again, because there was something about that atmosphere, you know, it was like an island and all. It was something about it. I went back, and Sonny told me his story. It was like after meeting, and I said to myself, oh my God, you know, and I thought he was making it up because I hadn't told him anything about me, you know, and then I remember him saying, look, you don't have to take the elevator all the way to the bottom. You can get off anytime you want. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, I'll be back again next Saturday. And, you know, when they would have the AA meetings on Saturday, the time would compete with Soul Train. And everything in the penitentiary stopped for Soul Train. So they could see him go down the line, you know. So I broke away from Soul Train to go save my life. And it was my first exposure to AA. And, you know, God brought me to AA, and then AA brought me back to God. I remember Sonny sitting down and talking to me, and every time I tried to tell him about this happened and that happened, he said, it don't matter, Joe. He said, AA can bring you from that to this. And I said, well, what is this? He said, look, you know, I'm coming in here, bringing the meeting weekend in and weekend out. You show up, something is happening. Something is happening. And I didn't trust them. You know, we had a meeting today about trust. It was as Bill sees it. I didn't trust God. I didn't even trust myself. But there was something about this individual. You know, he spoke the truth, and he spoke the truth without blame or judgment. And then when we would talk and the meetings would begin to get populated, you know, I think I knew I took that first step when I began to talk, at least somewhat honestly, about my drinking. And I formed a bond with him. I didn't stay in there, obviously, I wanted to, but I didn't stay in there the rest of my life. And, you know, when you get released, you have to have an address. You got to have an address. So this man let me live with him. He didn't know me from Adam. I mean, I'm from Brooklyn. He's from Harlem. He's an ex-cop. I'm an ex-lawyer, you know. He didn't trust me. And I remember going to live with him. And I remember he had up in his closet, he had a .38 revolver. And he said, so-and-so, he said, if you will steal from me, he said, you're going to be introduced to my best friend. And I said, you in AA, you can't talk like that. He said, yeah. And it was the beginning of the beginning. You know, I thought I had lost everything, had nothing, but when I came into AA, I realized that I had gained everything. I started making early meetings in Harlem, principles before personalities, and, you know, some of them strong folks up there, Dollar Bill and Lois and Goat, and all of them impressed me. And I liked them fellas like Goat because, you know, on the one hand, he was like a real gangster guy, but so spiritual. God would come out 2 sentences after shooting somebody, you know. Wow, how you do that? Yeah. How you do God and homicide, you know? So, but I didn't stay in Harlem long because, you know, Sonny believed in doing work. We got into the steps. Actually, when I was locked up, I was on my knees immediately with that third step. Then when we got out, stayed with him for a while, and it wasn't so much suggestions back then. He said, look, if you don't do the 9th step, you will drink and you will die. I said, okay. And that 9th step, I had to go back to Brooklyn and see these this family that had long left and abandoned. I hadn't seen my kids in years. And I said, okay, I'll go back to the house, but if you go with me and be my witness, let them know that I'm okay now. And he said, yeah, I'll do that, Joe. Yeah, come on. So we got on the train, got off at the stop. And I'm saying, Sonny, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. We got right to the door, just a little bit before the door, and I see him peel and turn and walk away. I said, where you going? He said, what are you, a punk? I said, yeah, I am. And I said, come when to ring the bell. He didn't ring the bell. I rang the bell. They talk about the promises and, just showing up. I don't know where I got the courage just to stay there and not just run down the stoop and run around the corner, but it came out of nowhere. And that was the beginning of many times God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. It was the beginning of many times of God showing up when I wanted to go the other way. And it was the beginning of many times of God dragging me, kicking and screaming. I wanted to go this way, but he brought me to a better place. So my sober date is May 1983. Everything that I've lost that I needed in AA, I've gotten back. I was disbarred as an attorney. They took it. They really didn't take it. I drank it away. It's not it wasn't no conspiracy. I am responsible. I drank it away. And that for many, many years that was on me. What I did, I got into another career, service, immersed in AA, but it was still in the back of my mind that, I'm one of the first in my family ever to graduate, from college. When I graduated from law school, folk came up from down south. And, I talked to Sonny before he passed about this, but never did it seriously. Some folks in my home group, but it was about a year ago I decided that I wanted to trust God in this process and, reapply for readmission. I said, and how I'm scared doing it, but I won't tell you that I'm scared. I won't say that. They may say no. I said, I told you this is all BS, And, but with some good, strong people in my life, I did that. I did make that application. And on this Tuesday at 12:30, I have to go to the Appellate Division, First Department, and begin that process of readmission, So, but the real blessing was AA. I'm still a little scared. Man, if I could have all y'all with me next Tuesday, just to bust in that office, man, and say, what's up with Joe, man? He's a good guy. But it is what it is. If I get it, I get it. But if I don't, I have y'all. I got grandkids today, I heard somebody say, yeah, I got grandkids and I see them by appointment only. They live down south. And I'm always going down south. I have good people in my life that I love today, They love me without condition, not just what they can get. These promises have come true in my life for an alcoholic that was sleeping on train, lost everything. I didn't even tell you about my suicide attempts that didn't work out because God didn't want them to work out. He knew. It was almost like saying way down the road, of where you be in a convention on a Sunday, out of the crack house, out of the dope house, not waiting for the liquor store to open on Sunday. We waiting for the meeting to open on a Sunday, So I'm thankful, forever thankful for Alcoholics Anonymous, it's given me a second chance on life. And I'm thankful for all of you. Some folks I know, I don't know, just friends we are good friends, just haven't met yet. I want to thank Sini for this convention. You didn't fall asleep, Pat. All right. And I want to thank you, all of you. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.